Hi, welcome to Live and Local, a talk show discussing the people, events, and organizations that affect the Iowa City area. I'm your host, Brian McConnell. Today we're joined by Girls on the Run with Esther Baker and Jenny Burish. Both of you, welcome.
Thank you.
If we could just start and maybe each introduce yourselves a little bit, say what your role is with Girls on the Run, and maybe just a little of your background.
I guess I'll start. I'm Esther Baker. I'm the Executive Director of Girls on the Run of Eastern Iowa. I just started this past May.
Okay.
So just went through my first full season with Girls on the Run. My background, actually I started out in TV and radio, so being here is very comfortable for me.
So you're better than me. Perfect.
So I worked for several major universities and then wanted to get into the nonprofit sector, and this opportunity came up and it was just perfect, and I'm really enjoying it.
I'm Jenny Burish. I have been involved with Girls on the Run of Eastern Iowa since 2006 when we first, a few of us got together and decided this would be a great organization to bring to the local community for the first time in Iowa. So it's a group of people in education and I'm in healthcare and just from kind of different walks of life, and who had all really appreciated what being athletic and being active had done for them during their adolescence and their young adult lives. So we got together to bring Girls on the Run to the community in 2006. So I've been involved since then, and I've worn a number of hats. Early on, we kind of did everything because we had to, and then I've been in charge of 5K organization, and also even been called the executive director for a while, but as a volunteer. And now I'm the chair of the board, and I have been for the last few years since we've been an independent nonprofit organization.
So Jenny, since you were kind of involved in the beginning of it, what inspired you to kind of help us get this going here?
Well, I guess a number of different things. I have been a runner much of my life. I think it helped me get through, adolescence, avoid a lot of pitfalls that can happen to young women, and also provided a great, ability to stay active, stay healthy, great friends. And so part of that was as an adult, I had some friends who were runners as well, and they had heard about Girls on the Run. We'd read about it. Some had acted as running buddies for programs in other communities, and we just started to hear more about it and think this is something that the community could really benefit from.
Yeah.
And so we went to the international organization and started to ask what it would take. And throughout it all, we've just been so impressed with the Iowa City community and how it's a perfect place to bring such an organization. Just tons of partnerships over the years, and wonderful people to get to know. So. I think it's something that it's an organization that has something for everybody, from the girls through the adults, the volunteers, the coaches, the people on the board, and also as a program itself, the curriculum offers something to girls from every walk of life, every socioeconomic status. So we've found that it's not only the sort of the perhaps high risk young girls that this is great for, but every girl is at risk at this age. So yeah.
So I guess if either of you would like to just talk about this, give us a little background about what is Girls on the Run. Obviously the obvious part in the name talks about the running aspect, but I understand it's a lot more than that.
It is. It's a physical activity-based positive youth development program, so it's so much more than just a running organization. What we do is basically give girls a toolkit for navigating life. The curriculum that surrounds the Girls on the Run, which comes from Girls on the Run International, our parent program, it teaches girls so many life skills like confidence and self-esteem and positive self-talk and feeling good about yourself, feeling good about others, standing up to bullies, avoiding gossip, making healthy choices, whether that's healthy food choices, healthy friend choices, choices in life. Part of the curriculum is about how you interact with the community. So each team actually does a community service project as part of Girls on the Run, and so we teach them about the importance of giving back to the community and interacting in a more positive way with others. So there's just so much there beyond the running aspect, but the running aspect is important too, because it teaches girls the importance of physical activity throughout your life. It teaches girls how to appreciate teamwork and working together, and also we call it teaching confidence through accomplishment, because as part of the program, and I should say that it's a 10-week program. The season is a 10-week season, and the girls meet twice a week for those 10 weeks. And it all culminates in an end-of-season celebratory 5K that all the girls run together, and it's also open to the community. And it's such a special event because there's a lot of adults who couldn't say that they would run a 5K, and here there are these 3rd through 6th grade girls who are running this 5K, and it's just so moving, and it's such an amazing accomplishment.
So a little bit about the history. I know you keep referring to Girls on the Run International. It started in North Carolina, and I guess who was the brainchild behind that, or how did that all get going?
Yeah, so a very charismatic woman named Molly Barker basically had an epiphany. She was an athlete growing up, but she felt like she was really stuck in this girl box where she felt like she was very constrained by expectations, and she ended up making a lot of unhealthy choices in her life. So she had this epiphany that she wanted to change things for the next generation of girls. And so in 1996, she started the first program, and it's just grown incredibly since then. I mean, it's in, if not every state, almost every state.
I think 49 states at this point.
49 states.
Plus Canada.
Yeah, and some sites in Canada.
Well, who's
That's
missing?
It's called Girls on the Run International.
I knew you would ask that. I actually
No,
don't know
that's
which
okay.
state is missing. But there's more than
a map.
There's more than 200 councils across the
Okay.
United States. So
I mean, it just seems like a great, when you think about all the things involved with, I mean, just with the health of kids now and that with the confidence, it's just a really neat concept. So I guess what's your territory? Who do you reach?
we started out as Girls on the Run of Johnson County.
Okay.
In 2012, we added Lynn County and became Girls on the Run of Eastern Iowa. And then over the past several seasons, we've added one site each in Buchanan, Jefferson, and Henry County. So we're also in Independence, Fairfield, and Mount Pleasant. And here in the Iowa City area, we have Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty, we have, I believe, 20 sites. And then the rest of the sites are in the Cedar Rapids, Greater Lynn County area.
Are you the only one in Iowa?
There's also a council in Polk County.
Right. We
Yeah.
were the first in Iowa.
Okay.
And then the way that the organization works is they want to encourage each council to be independent and successful. And so they let us know if somebody else in Iowa is interested in starting a council and give us the ability to spread into that area. But in the case of Polk County, that was a little bit far for us to try to manage. So
Yeah.
right now there are 2. And I think there's also one up in the very northwest that's a multi-state, because sometimes in the rural councils, you have to
Right.
sort of develop a very broad scope of geographic area to reach the girls. And so I think there's a county in the very northwest of the state that is also in South Dakota. And but yes, we were the first, so that was exciting. But
So I was kind of curious about this too. Have there been any organizations like this for boys that have modeled it after your model? Because it really seems like a great.
Not that I am aware
it's an
of.
interesting question. It comes up often, I think appropriately for especially for parents who see what it does for their girls and for
Sure.
their families. They think, it's not just girls who face these challenges
Exactly.
as they're going through adolescence, but in pre-adolescence. But they tried to do a very similar curriculum in boys, and they tried to pilot that in a number of communities, and it turned out that the dynamic wasn't the same. It was just didn't work the way that the sort of the team building worked. And so, and I do believe that I think Molly, in fact, so Molly was on IPR recently, and I listened to that interview, Molly Barker, the founder, and she did mention that she knows of somebody who and have. I don't know that they've officially partnered, but they're aware of this program that has been set up for boys. It has been a little more successful. I think they're just keys to the dynamic in
Sure.
boys versus girls that just are a little bit different. But they want to be sure that Girls on the Run International wants to be sure everybody knows that it's not just girls that have these challenges, but they just seem to have found the right mix for
absolutely.
a very successful girls program. Yeah.
So other than the running, talk about the programming. You talk about this 10-week.
So the girls meet, like I said, twice a week for 10 weeks. The average team is approximately 15 girls. Some have fewer, some have more. Some sites actually had 2 teams this season because so many girls wanted to join.
Are they broken into age groups, or is it just that
It's
3rd through 8th?
3rd through 6th grade.
Oh, okay.
There is a program for older girls called Girls on Track, which we have not brought into Eastern
Right.
Iowa at this point.
It's a separate curriculum and
Okay.
coach training and everything. So
Right. So each team meets with volunteer coaches who go through training and certification by us. We give them all the materials that they need, the curriculum for each season. There are 3 separate curricula that cover the same topics but in slightly different ways because we do have girls who repeat. So this just gives them a little variety in how they're learning the concepts and the lessons. And the concepts are taught in a fun way. It's not the coaches lecturing at the girls and then they go out and run laps. It's all very interactive. They play games, they do puzzles, or little, here's a scenario, how would you handle it, that kind of thing. And then toward the end of each session, they do a warm-up and then they run. And in the beginning couple weeks, they might walk more than they run. They might run a little more slowly. But as each week passes, the girls gain capacity, they gain ability, they gain speed, they gain, they run more than they walk. And then by week 8, we have a practice 5K. Just to show the girls what it would feel like. How, they can walk, they can skip, they can cartwheel, just as long as they keep moving forward. It's not required that they actually run. But then we build up to the final 5K at the end, and some of the girls walk, some of the girls run, some do both. But in any case, the running part of it also incorporates the lesson. So perhaps with each lap they then have to write down something having to do with the concept that they learned that day, or tell the coach something that that relates to the concept that they learned that day. So it's all very reinforced throughout the course of the session, and each lesson builds on the next one till they gain, like I said, sort of this toolkit for being able to navigate the ups and downs of life in a more successful way.
Do you want to give any examples of the lessons? Just kind of in a nutshell type thing, or
Yeah.
you talk about confidence building and.
Well, I haven't coached for a few years, so I don't recall the details of them. But I mean, they're basically set. They're very structured. The curriculum, as Esther was saying, you first have a getting on board session where you're with the girls and you kind of transition from their day and anything that's gone on and get their attention, and then you have something to introduce the topic of the day, but it's an active thing, and then again you come back into your circle and you kind of process at each stage. So it's a very structured curriculum.
Okay.
And again, the first kind of third of the 10 weeks is really getting to know yourself and making some healthy choices. The second third is getting to know your team and being an effective team member and a respectful team member, and then the last third is the reaching out to the community. So there are some of the most successful and popular ones are the ones that are about bullying or about gossip. And I don't know if they still have in the curriculum. When I coached the gossip one, we used a tube of toothpaste to show that once it's out of the tube, you can't get it back in.
Yeah.
And there's one where we talk about plugging in the positive cord, the positive plug into the cord so that you're always, thinking positively. And so there's some sort of cool demonstrations on how to do all of that. But yeah, it's a really cool curriculum. And the key is really in the curriculum. They're very careful about, only giving the curriculum out to people who have been trained and not allowing it to be disseminated, because they've done a ton of work on making sure that the curriculum is appropriate for the age group, that it's studied. They've done lots of research on the curriculum to make sure it's age appropriate and covering appropriate topics and effective in making changes. And so that's a really important part of the program. It's not just, women volunteers who are in there kind of organizing a random running group. It's a very structured and effective program.
So let's talk about that a little bit, the volunteer side of things. And maybe Jenny, just since you've been involved for a long time, you can start with this. But I guess a couple things. What is your ideal volunteer? What are some of the obligations, and what are you looking for? And
Well, our ideal volunteer is probably like anybody's ideal volunteer, somebody who's enthusiastic and flexible. There's a number of different ways to volunteer. That's a really nice thing about this organization. It can be minimally time intensive. So if you wanted to if you only had a few hours and you like to run 5Ks anyway, you could be a running buddy for just the one time in the actual end of the season 5K. And then you're just assigned to a girl and you just support them and run or walk alongside them, get to know them, and provide some community support, and they get to know an adult in the community who's supportive of them. So that's a cool introduction to the whole program, and that's probably the least, sort of time that's required. Or even you don't ever have to interact with the girls, and you can volunteer your talents and skills by being a soulmate, which is our adult fundraising arm. So for people who are out there doing triathlons anyway, 5Ks, marathons, half marathons, they can raise money. So that's one way. I always think that it's much more fun to interact with the girls, but sometimes you can't find that in your schedule. And then the most time-intensive one would be, on the other end of the spectrum, would be to be a coach. And you could coach one of those 2 sessions a week or both. And that's, that requires the training in advance and requires really being invested in those days, preparing with the curriculum, really being there for the girls emotionally and physically, and then supporting them in the 5K, and for the head coaches, reaching out to the parents, all of that kind of thing. And then obviously there's 5K, day of the race kind of volunteers and those types of things. So we're always looking, and it's on our website.
And so I guess, Esther, if you want to talk about, what's that process once somebody, maybe they see this program or they hear about it from a friend, how do they reach out, and what's kind of the process of becoming a volunteer, whether it's a coach or
All right. The best way is just to go to our website, which is www.girlsontheruniowa.org. And there's a link at the top that says Get Involved, I believe. And if you click on that link, it shows you all the different volunteer opportunities that we have. There's a click on volunteer, and there's a little form that you fill out that indicates what types of things you're interested in. So if you're interested in being a coach, that's an opportunity. If you're interested in volunteering, just a one-time deal like on race day or that kind of thing, there's an opportunity there. There's another section for soulmates, because that's a little more involved. You commit to raising money for the race that you are doing on your own. You reach out to your friends and family and say, hey, I'm doing this on behalf of Girls on the Run. There's a way to set up a website to collect those donations. So that's a little bit more involved. In terms of the coaching, there's, and running buddies, there's some parameters. To be a head coach, you have to be female, 21 and older, and submit a background check.
Sure.
To be an assistant coach, you can be male or female, 18 and older, also submit a background check. For the safety of the girls, all the volunteers who interact directly with the girls submit a background check. For running buddies, if you're a family chosen or family found running buddy, you can be male or female. So a brother, a father, an uncle, a family friend. If the family has indicated that you are the one who is going to be the running buddy. We haven't really talked about, I mean, you talked a little bit about running buddies, but the running buddies run with the girl both at the practice 5K and the final 5K. So you just don't have the girls running out there alone, but they're there with an adult role model, someone to cheer them on, like you said. But again, the family found running buddies can be male or female, 16 and older. We also have volunteers from the community. Some of the girls don't have a family member or a family friend to run with them. We have members of the community who volunteer to run with a girl, and we'll pair them up. They need to be 18 or older, female, and submit a background check. So those are some of the things that you'll need to do if you want to be a volunteer. If you want to volunteer on race day, if you want to be a soulmate, if you want to volunteer on a committee, we have also committees. I was going to
say, I didn't mention the committees or the board.
Yeah.
Sure. And so, a good friend of mine, Chauncey, who's involved in it as well, I know that, I mean, she's just talked to my wife and I about how much she's, yes, it's helping the girls, but how much she's gotten out of it. I mean, she gloats more about that and just how much enjoyment it's brought her. So,
yeah, that's one of the goals of Girls on the Run International in doing this. Was, I think Molly identified that this did so much for her, that's really one of the goals is to build independent nonprofits with women running them, and also to bring these core values of Girls on the Run to the board, to the volunteers, to the parents, to the staff, and to live those core values. And I think, it's even easier to do that if you're interacting with the girls and you're sort of feeling like you have to live what you're teaching. And I think that's really interesting to see the parents do that as well. We have this interesting parent handbook that Girls on the Run International makes that the girls take home with them. And then if their parents want to be their running buddy or just want to be inspired by their daughters and make it through a 5K, then it's got a kind of a Couch to 5K training program in it. It's also got each of the lessons and what are the goals of the lessons and what should be the takeaway points, and talk to your girls about this. And so I do think that's been one of the amazing things about the program for me, is to see what the adults have gotten out of it and what it's done for me as well. So absolutely.
One thing that when I was kind of looking through this, how do these connections get made? How do you get the girls in contact with, like, the actual girls that are in the program, the 3rd to 6th grade? How do they, is it their family refers them? Is it somebody at school? Do they hear about it from a friend? I'm sure it's a variety, but what's the main reason? Or
It is a variety of ways. It's promoted within the schools. So currently we have 32 schools that are involved, and the head coaches will distribute flyers and postcards, and often the head coaches are actually from the school.
Teachers or parents.
Teachers, guidance counselors, parents. So at the beginning of the school year, a lot of the schools in the area have ice cream socials or other kinds of get-togethers.
Right.
So we'll have a table there, or we'll have literature there to tell people about the program. We'll put information flyers in Friday folders or virtual backpacks, or however information gets distributed. We also have posters around town.
The local runs.
is it the
Yeah.
parent or guardian who has to kind of initiate it, or is there a...
I mean, I suppose it could come either way, but they do have to give permission.
Sure.
But the one great thing that hasn't come up yet about the program in our conversation is the fact that they don't necessarily have to pay. So,
Yeah.
so that's been one of the real goals of the whole organization, is that this is an organization that provides this program for anybody who's interested. There is a registration fee, but if you can't pay any of it, that's fine. So in a sense, the girl could just initiate this
Yeah.
and not need to, but we do have to have that permission
Yeah.
anyway that they're there. But
Right.
but it does allow this involvement to happen for many girls where otherwise it might not.
Yeah.
So
I want to make sure before we run out of time, we talk about a few of the things going on in 2015. I know Luna Fest is something my wife's gone to and really enjoyed. So if you can talk about some of the upcoming events, how people can get involved in that.
yeah.
Luna Fest is our spring-ish fundraiser, and I say that because this next one is actually going to be in February. Typically it's in March or April, but it's a film festival with short films by, for, and about women. And they can be anything from a short animated feature to a documentary to a little story. It's a feature film type of thing, but in short form. And they're wonderful. And we have a silent auction attached to that. So we have a sort of reception before the movies start with refreshments, and people can go around and look at the items that were donated from local businesses and put their bids in, and then we'll show the films, and during intermission people give their last best bid, and then we'll show the rest of the movies, and it's a fun event.
I've heard good things about it.
Yes, it's February 19th this year. It's going to be at the Coralville Center for Performing Arts.
great.
And which is a great venue.
It's
We
been
had
at
it
the
there
Engler
before.
in the past, hasn't it?
It was at the Bijou the very
Okay,
first time we did
okay.
it, and since then it's been at the CCPA.
Okay.
But we're starting to kind of outgrow that venue. But it's a really cool partnership. I mean, that's a nice thing about Girls on the Run International in general. They've had these wonderful corporate partnerships, and this is one. So it's the Luna Bar company basically that puts this traveling film festival together, and part of the funds go to then the Breast Cancer Fund, and part of the funds then go to your local Girls on the Run chapter. So I think it's perfect for our community, being such a film strong community.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So we really only have about a minute left, but if one of you would just like to offer maybe a fun success story that you've seen, obviously without mentioning names or anything like that, or just something, or even just a last tidbit, something about that you'd like people to leave with.
One of the best stories that I heard recently from a coach, if you'll allow me to take the moment, is there was a girl who she really encouraged to be a part of her team. She had never been involved in an after-school program before. She was shy, she had low self-esteem, and the coach really felt that she could benefit from this, and she had to convince her parents that this was worthwhile. And at the beginning, she wouldn't talk, she wouldn't participate, she would just sort of hang back from the group. And by the last session, that 20th practice, we call them, the coach said to her, "You know, I think you're awesome. You know you're awesome." And she said, "Yeah, I know," with a big smile on her face. And it was just such a change from the beginning to the end, and it just encapsulates what this program does for girls.
That's really neat, and I'm sorry we have to kind of end now. It's been really great just getting to know more about the organization, and thank you so much, both of you, for taking your time. Also, it'll be interesting as we finish here to just get a little flavor for what the Girls on the Run International
to see
is
the girls, that'll be good.
coming up. But again, thank you for tuning in to PATV Channel 18. Be sure to tune in every Wednesday at 8 p.m. to your neighborhood network for the newest episode of Live and Local.
I used to be a participant in Girls on the Run, and now out of college I'm coaching and I just love it. Girls on the Run is really important for girls. I think it helps them with building their confidence and building positive self-image and positive ways to deal with situations.
We as the coaches are the leaders that the girls follow, and then once we step out of the way, that gives them the opportunity to then become those leaders.
Being a coach for Girls on the Run, I get to influence young women's lives every year, every day, and impact the rest of their lives and what kind of women they're going to turn out to be.
I didn't realize how much of a well-being, emotional side of it that they were teaching girls. We're learning so many different ways to open up conversations with our daughters, and it's so neat because she wants to have these mom chat sessions at night now, and so, you know, before bed we just continue that talk, and it's been so wonderful for our bond and our relationship.
Girls on the Run is a bonding experience for my girls.
Girls on the Run makes me feel good and makes me feel like I can express myself. I have learned how to deal with bullies and not to gossip and spread rumors. It helps you build the confidence in yourself. The coaches are right behind you saying, come on, you can do it. Girls on the Run makes me feel warm and good on the inside.
I love that you get a group of girls coming in from the very beginning that are so diverse, and by the end of the season, those girls are a complete team.
One of the main reasons I got involved was seeing how the impact it had on my wife, who had been coaching. I think being sort of a male model there for the girls sort of gives a different perspective on things.
My favorite memory of Girls on the Run, I think, is seeing one of my girls from my first team cross the finish line. She needed Girls on the Run. She had a lot going on in her life. I remember being at the finish line when they crossed that line, and her face was just like, I did this amazing thing.
When I signed up as a coach, I had no idea that it would be like this. I thought it was just about running, about teaching the girls to run, and it's just amazing, the impact.
Girls need to know that they have a voice in this world. And I think with Girls on the Run, it reaches and it finds girls and it helps girls to understand that they are important. And because of that, they can make a positive difference in this world.
I love Girls on the Run. I love Girls on the Run.
We love Girls on the Run.
We